Welcome back to the Juice on the Cuse podcast here on the Bleav and On SI networks. Wes Chang here with you, and we are thrilled to welcome back to the program former Syracuse All-Big East linebacker and NFL veteran Rich Scanlon. Rich, appreciate the time. How are you today?
Hey, Wes, I'm doing good. How are you doing? Well, I'm not
Yeah.
doing as good after this weekend. I got to be honest with you.
Yeah, both of us, you and me both. So, Rich, obviously, you were talking about this pre-show. Disappointing game, especially on the offensive side of the ball on Friday. Syracuse losing to North Carolina. What did you take away from that loss?
We're struggling to throw the forward pass. Number one, defense is pretty young. I think we scored a defensive touchdown, so that was good. I think it was 10-3 at the half or 10-6 at the half. So team played well, but as with any young squad, keeping it together consistently over the course of a game seems to be a challenge still. So they kind of unraveled with a couple big plays in the second half. But it's hard when we struggle to muster a first down, right? When you can't throw the ball literally at all, it's hard, to play defense for that long. So yeah, disappointing, right? It's been disappointing past few weeks for sure.
Is it just about the quarterback? I know, listen, Joe Filardi came on this podcast last year, went 4 for 18, 37 yards. I get that. Is it just all about the quarterback struggles, or is there anything else that you're seeing here for why they're losing?
Well, the lines are young, on the defense, especially on the defensive side. The team is relatively young, but defense really wasn't the problem last week. It had been kind of like the previous few weeks, and you're going to have those up and downs with the young team. So, for me, it's a bunch of things. I think last year, hit on the quarterback, hit on some of those wide out transfers, right? Great running back room, offensive line stayed healthy, defense, seasoned, veterans. There's a bunch of NFL guys on that team. And I think we have some potential, but they're much younger this year, and Fran trying to see what he's got through playing a bunch of different guys, I think is okay. And it's going to be a process. And I'm here for that process. I believe in what he's doing. I like the staff that they have, they put together for the most part. We have a lot of good young recruits. It's unfortunate if Steve doesn't get hurt. What does the season look like? Cruising in that Clemson game. I don't know, Clemson is not Clemson of old, but it's still a win in Death Valley. I think that turns the tables for at least a couple of the games this year. It's a really hard schedule. So, I'm still very positive. Obviously, it's hard to be after last week. But, I'm hopeful that, it's hard to believe we don't have a second quarterback that can throw the ball. It's going to be kind of required to play college football. So I think Coach Brown is just trying to get a look at what he has on the roster. Given there are a bunch of young kids, who do you invest in going for the future? Because that's the thing with the NIL era. If you just go to the backup and you don't know how good the other players are, you don't know who to invest in kind of for the future. So, going through this might be a necessary evil.
So you're a former Syracuse grade at linebacker, and what are you seeing from the defensive end? And I also wanted to get your take on a guy who's playing your former position, Antoine Delorier.
Yeah. So first few weeks of the season, I saw a lot of good from that team or from that side of the ball. Physically not, again, they're younger guys except for Antoine, right, who is the younger guy, but spent a lot of time in the weight room, way more than I ever spent in the weight room as a young player. So there's a lot of that physical development that happens when you're a freshman, sophomore. A lot of these guys are uber talented in high school, didn't do a ton of physical development. I know I didn't. Weightlifting and training wasn't a big thing. And I know all the best players are physically gifted athletically, and they don't spend a lot of time training. So the physical development, besides, Antoine, who I think is an exception to the rule. I think that's a lot of what I see on the field is the physicality is lacking and the stamina is lacking just because, these are 18, 19-year-old kids, and they don't have the physical development, of some of the other players and of some of the other teams. I think most of the teams they're playing against, they're older players. I think Clemson is heavily veteran laden team. I know Duke probably is with a ton of veteran transfers. So just different players.
Rich, I want to get you out of here on this one. Just going off your own experiences. Again, you played in the NFL for many years. You played against Bill Belichick as a pro. Is it strange to you to see him as a college coach and then all just the shenanigans that have gone on with North Carolina?
The shenanigans are super surprising given how he's run things before. But I also think that it's a different game, right? It's a different type of job. You are, a recruiter, you're a parent to a certain degree, you're their coach, so you're doing a lot of things that he typically has not had to deal with before. And it's very different, right? Going into a living room, speaking to a mom or a dad or, anybody, any family member about a player or a son or a cousin or whatever it is, like that's different than just paying someone to play. And I think that's the part that was always questionable to me on how that was going to work for a guy like him. And obviously they beat us last week, so he's doing a little bit better than we are, but I'm not surprised to see him like go through that adjustment period, and whether he can do it or not, I think remains to be seen. Seeing him on the sidelines coaching is not that, weird, but I was surprised. And I think it just has to do with lack of availability, in the NFL. Like if he had a job, I think tomorrow he would leave, but I don't know if he's getting those types of opportunities.
Well, Rich, thanks so much. Again, Syracuse legend, Rich Scanlon. Thanks for joining us on the podcast. Rich, appreciate the time. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Wes. Talk to you later.